We on this side of the House never forget that every penny we spend comes from taxpayers. And borrowed money is simply taxes that are deferred. And that's why it's so important to eradicate our deficit at the same time as making sure we fund our security, intelligence services and police properly. Now, I've said we're protecting the counter-terrorism budget. We see a 3,800 increase in neighbourhood police officers in the last Parliament, at the same time as a 31% increase in 31% cut in crime. Now, his shadow Home Secretary has said that a 10% efficiency target for the police is doable. Is the Leader of the Opposition saying that he doesn't agree with his shadow Home Secretary? There does seem to be a little bit of disagreement on the opposition front bench today.
Jeremy Corbyn!
I have a question from a taxpayer, actually. And his name is John, and he says, at a time... and he says, Mr. Speaker, at a time when we're experiencing the greatest threats from terrorism ever faced, our police office numbers and the resources are being cut. And he goes on to say, demands on the police have been increasing steadily as budgets are slashed, increasing stress on officers. Couple that with detrimental changes to their pay, terms, conditions and pensions. It's no wonder that morale in the police force is so poor that 1 in 3 are considering leaving the force. Will he be able to tell us whether or not this community policing and other police budgets are protected or not in next week's autumn statement?
Minister.
Let me tell you again, neighbourhood policing numbers have gone up by 3,800. In the capital city, we've seen a 500% increase in neighbourhood policing. We've also, because we've cut bureaucracy, put the equivalent of an extra 2,000 police on the streets. But I'll tell the Leader of the Opposition something. As well as wanting resources, the police want the appropriate powers. And hasn't it come to something when the Leader of Her Majesty's Opposition thinks that the police, when confronted by a Kalashnikov waving terrorist, isn't sure what the reaction should be?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the attacks on Paris were quite clearly an attack on all of us. Does the Prime Minister agree that our resolve must be unbreakable? We should hunt down ISIL wherever it is operating, wherever it is planning, wherever it is plotting. And if that means shoot to kill, then so be it. And if that means action in Syria, then so be it.
I think my honourable friend is right. What I've said is that in order to respond to this very severe threat that we face, we need a focus on counter-terrorism here in the United Kingdom, giving our intelligence agencies the laws they need, giving our police the powers they need, and making sure we are vigilant. We need counter-extremism, as we were discussing earlier, the importance of stopping the poisoning of these young minds, not least through these radical preachers on the internet. But we also need to stop the problems at their source. We know where much of this problem is coming from. It is ISIL, not just in Iraq, but ISIL in Syria. So what I said to the House yesterday is I will prepare a detailed response to the Foreign Affairs Select Committee report to demonstrate that we do have a clear strategy of bringing in the neighbourhood powers, bringing in the regional powers, building a future for these countries and stability in the Middle East. But I believe part of that is taking action against ISIL wherever it is.
Sir Angus Robertson.
Mr. Speaker, in the wake of terrorist outrages and the ongoing civil war in Syria, it's very welcome that there is significant diplomatic progress in trying to find a solution to the Syrian crisis. The UK joined the United States and France and Russia and Iran at talks in Vienna at the weekend, and all signed a communique committing to progress through the United Nations. Will the Prime Minister confirm that he will support a UN Security Council resolution on this before seeking to intervene militarily in Syria?
I'm grateful to the right honourable gentleman asking this question, because the point is this, that Russia has different aims to us and they have repeatedly threatened to veto any such resolution. Now, of course, it is always preferable in these circumstances to have the full backing of the United Nations Security Council, but I have to say what matters most of all is that any action we would take would both be legal and would help protect our country and our people right here. You cannot, as I said yesterday, outsource to a Russian veto the decisions we need to keep our country safe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The first survey of UK public opinion on Syrian intervention since the Paris attacks by Survation has shown the following. 52% believe that, and I quote, "The UK should engage with all countries to coordinate an appropriate response militarily or otherwise backed by United Nations resolution," and only 15% believe the UK should independently launch airstrikes. Will the Prime Minister give a commitment to secure a UN Security Council resolution which the UK agreed to and Russia agreed to a route through the United Nations as well?
I couldn't be clearer with the right honourable gentleman. Of course, it is always preferable in whatever action you're taking, whether we are lifting people out of the Mediterranean, whether we're flying Baltic air patrolling missions over countries that feel a Russian threat, or if we're taking action in the Middle East against ISIL, it's always preferable to have a UN Security Council resolution. But if they are vetoed or threatened with a veto over and over again, my job, frankly, as Prime Minister, is not to read a Survation opinion poll, but is to do the right thing to keep our country safe.
Armed police who stormed the Bataclan and killed those vile, murderous scum are heroes. And so are the British armed forces, armed police who protect our public spaces and the people. Will the Prime Minister send a note of unequivocal support today to those officers on patrol and ensure that in the review next week they have the resources they need to keep us safe?
I absolutely agree with my honourable friend. We ask the police every day to take risks on our behalf, and let me thank the police who policed so effectively the game at Wembley last night. In terms of what the French police have done, I think the House would welcome an update. We've seen the news of a police operation in Paris this morning. 2 terrorist suspects died, including a female suspect who blew herself up. 7 arrests are reported to have been made. This operation has now finished. And as the French Interior Minister has said, we should all acknowledge the bravery of the French police in dealing with what is a very challenging situation. Now, I hope there can be consensus across the House, and I mean right across the House on this. If we are confronted with a situation like this, the British police should not be in any doubt. If you have a terrorist who is threatening to kill people, you can, indeed you must, use lethal force. I don't think on a day when we are discussing a better equipped army, a bigger navy, a bigger air force, perhaps we ought to end with a quote from the right honourable gentleman who as recently as August said this: "Wouldn't it be wonderful if every politician around the world, instead of taking pride in the size of their armed forces, did what others have done and abolished their army and took pride in the fact they don't have an army?" That is, I know it's depressing for people sitting opposite, but they might as well know about it, that's the view of the Leader of the Opposition. In 2016 with our shipbuilding strategy, but the fact is Scotland now has the opportunity to build more than 13 frigates because of the changes that we are making. So there'll be 8 of the Type 26s and at least another 5 of the new type of frigate, probably more, and they can be built in Scotland if the conditions are right. Let me tell him the only way these ships wouldn't be built in Scotland, and if that is Scotland that was independent and didn't have the massive resources of the Royal Navy. That's what he should be saying to ship workers in Scotland, that it's the United Kingdom and our defence budget that helps to keep their jobs safe.